So here with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, interview with director Hamaguchi. This is on RPC Fan. So as part of recent Square Enix event where I played demo Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I also had the honor to conduct an interview with Rebirth's director. And for those familiar with Hamaguchi's work, he contributed to several Final Fantasy titles, including Final Fantasy, looks like 12 and Mobius Final Fantasy. Okay, and he was co-director of Remake. FF7 remake. So yeah, but now he's taking on the full reins of the sequel. So we'll go here. My first question is, what character, new or returning, was hardest to get into Rebirth's combat system compared to the original game? Hamaguchi responds, pretty much all monsters and bosses are carefully crafted. We put effort into all of them. I would say the Materia Guardian and a demo you got to play, while it does seem kind of similar to the Guard Scorpion, they are very, very different. So we made sure the gameplay experience for defeating these enemies felt different, but very rewarding for an early boss fight. And I feel like it's important they had that in there to be like a similar vibe or feel of the Scorpion, the Guard Scorpion. For Rebirth, I feel like 3 is going to have something similar to that as well, too. To that fact, we have an early boss that kind of sets the tone, sets up the expectations of what combat's supposed to feel like and be in the game. So, and I feel like that's what the Materia Guardian is going to be. And then regarding fitting the characters into Rebirth, we seriously considered each of their roles and wanted to keep that balance within the game. And we also considered the overall image the fans of the series may have towards the characters, so there are appropriate expectations for these. These are the things we really took into consideration. For example, Red 13. He is the kind of character that has a lot of close range attacks, but we also want to differentiate that from another character like Cloud, who can do the same thing. So Red 13 will have more of a timing-based attack based on his ability to guard. This leads to his revenge ability that's specific to him and makes him unique. As for Cait Sith, we can't go into a lot of details at this point, but we did see in trailers him riding into battle on the Fat Moogle, which will come to play in battle. Whether he is riding a Moogle or not will make a difference in his playstyle during battle. His dice element will also be part of his attacks, so in this way, we kind of kept the elements of the characters that the fans love while making them balanced with actions and battles. Something we took great care in doing. And that's amazing because you definitely want these characters to sort of retain, that sameness about them at their core, but also be revisioned, expand upon in their movesets and abilities, what they can do. And then they ask next, approximately how many minigames are playable in the Gold Saucer? Do you have a favorite or one you're excited for players to finally get their hands on? Hamaguchi responds, for minigames, save for a few of them, pretty much all of them from the original games are going to be recreated for Rebirth. For example, with the Mog House minigame, that used to be in the Gold Saucer, this is now moved to the world map, and we can experience the Monk House without being in the Gold Saucer. As for my favorite and one that I'm really excited for players to experience, I would say the Chocobo Races, which will tie into the main story as well. And that's true, that's how it was in the original. You essentially had to do the Chocobo Race to get out of prison in the original FF7 game. So, like all the side content in the game, the Chocobo Races are really well developed, and it's a minigame I can see the fans getting into because of all the aspects to it. To add to that, fans of the original games or people who have played the original have this image that the Gold Saucer was the place for minigames and the hub for those activities. This time around, there will be minigames within the Gold Saucer and some outside of it, scattered across the world. They can be uncovered by exploring certain locations or talking to certain characters. For example, the card that game is played by characters worldwide. By continuing the journey and progressing the story, you will unlock new minigames and new opponents across the world. I think players will come out of it with the feeling that the entire world of Rebirth offers so much in terms of activities to enjoy. This sounds like it's going to be how FF15 should have been in terms of open world or open world scope, and in terms of things to do that keep you engaged. I plan to play FF15 leading up to Rebirth because Rebirth is certainly going to be an open world game as well too, or at least semi-open world or open zoned. and it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with the stuff in the open world. You know, I'm hoping it's like an Elden Ring situation where they're like every 30 seconds to a minute, there's something interesting going on that you want to check out, or like, you know, piece of candy syndrome, where it's like, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy, you know, where there's something you want to look at, check out, fight, explore, find, things like that. So this is shaping up to be like something that could be very awesome in that regard. And then they asked next, in the trailers we have seen the synergy team attacks. Will everybody have a team attack with every character a la Chrono Trigger, or will it be limited to a specific grouping of characters? So Hamaguchi responds, thank you for this great question. To answer it simply, all characters will have synergy attacks with every character pairing. Sort of the reason why we decided to do it this way was to give players that freedom and fun of choosing through trial and error their favorite pairings, or trying unique pairings they hadn't tried before. If we were to have it so that only specific characters are able to synergy attack, that would go against this idea of freedom and enjoyment for the player. We really wanted to keep that idea of freedom for the players, despite knowing that a lot of hard work and graphic resources went into making it this way. Yeah, very true. From the demo footage and like that obviously has been on YouTube and anything like that. It's, you know, you can see it in there, like with the synergy attacks being an incredible addition that seems like it's gonna be a lot of fun to mess around with and just expand the combat in ways, you know, similar to Chrono Trigger, but hopefully even more than what Chrono Trigger even did. Because we still not only have synergy attacks, but I mean, there's still summons we have to figure out, and hopefully they were handled better than Remake. And then there's probably other abilities each character has we need to know about. And then possibly a synergy tree or something like that, or other synergy attacks that will just evolve the gameplay as you progress and level up. All right, so on top of this, each character is going to have their own skill tree in which one could develop and gain new synergy actions. Yep, what I just said. So new synergy actions and abilities for the favorite characters. So there's going to be new stuff like that to evolve the gameplay. For players that really like Cloud and Aerith, they can focus entirely on them or any pairings. We just want to give the players choice and freedom to pick what they like the best or what they feel is most suitable for defeating certain bosses or enemies. I think that could be a really fun experience. Another thing too with this I love is the fact that this sounds like we can fine-tune the characters more so than ever and actually have maybe real or better builds for our characters. You know, not saying you can do that in Remake, because you definitely could make certain builds for each character and whatnot, but I want this to feel more expand upon. You know, I use that word a lot because this is how you innovate in good ways when it comes to these modern video games today and sequels and like that and retelling stories. You take something, you expand upon the foundation of what you already built in, you know, great ways, basically, to make it more fun, more engaging. So RPG Fan asks, in Remake, we saw the use of summons like Leviathan and Bahamut who were not available at that point in the original game. So far, we have seen Alexander and Trevor as someone who, as far as we know, is from a part of the original that would not be explorable yet in Rebirth. So the question is, we're going to expect to see more summons from further in the story in Rebirth. And which summon is your favorite so far? All right, so he responds, I can't reveal exactly which summons are in Rebirth so far. I would like to say that the summons are materia from the live stream in the original Final Fantasy VII, but outside of that, they didn't really go much into their background or how they came into existence. So for Rebirth, we'll explore a little bit more into that. For example, there are areas that will be tied into the summons, like an area where a specific summon was once revered or once existed. With Chadley, the player will be exploring some of those aspects and will be shedding a bit more light on that, which makes sense because in Remake, that's essentially part of what Chadley did. You essentially would do these, you know, virtual battles against like certain summons in Remake before you got the materia. I think one was for Shiva, Bahamut, you know, etc. And it's very cool that they're going to expand upon the lore of the summons, at least in this universe of Final Fantasy. And as a follow-up to the summon question, are the summons going to interact differently this time around than in Remake. In Remake, you just summon them and they fight alongside you, but we saw in Final Fantasy VII 16 how amazing and spectacular summons can really get. Do you have any plans to maybe change that system, or is it going to be the same that we saw in Remake? So Hamaguchi responds, for Rebirth, there isn't something that is incorporating summons into the main story per se, but with Remake, you may recall that the materia itself did not exactly level up. This time, however, there is a growth element that is kind of different from AP. By playing minigames or progressing through certain content and story, the summon materia's ability will grow. In that way, there's a sort of growth factor tied to the side content of the game. Oh my god, I love that. They are making side content more valuable, more meaningful to do. Because it's going to effectively level up your summon materia and make them more important. So, a question for you: do you know that in Final Fantasy VII there are those weapon creatures? If we were to introduce them like summons as another kind of entity-like creature, do you think that would be too much, or would you enjoy it? Oh my god, they are teasing hard here. He is teasing hard about weapons, introducing them as summons, possibly. That would be insane. If we could, let's say we fight a weapon and then they use it as a summon, right? We get the material to use as a summon. Holy shit. I think that'd be very cool. Giant kaiju battles are awesome. My only thing is, though, I don't want them to copy what they did in 16 with the kaiju battles. I feel like that should be a FF16 thing only, right? I want them to do something like how they did in Advent Children, where they take on that big creature, I think it was Bahamut, and Advent Children, and you can control your characters in a way that is fluid and smooth and makes sense in battling that. And like essentially your characters, you know, are taking on this big kaiju like creature or weapon or whatever have you. And then that way, I think, and like almost God of War like basically. But hopefully better. You know, hopefully more engaging. So I'm hoping that happens, but we'll see. I am a big fan of dressing characters up in games, and I would like to know if there are cosmetics this time around. Maybe put Barrett into a sailor suit and keep him in it the rest of the game, because I know he loves that suit in the original game. That's true. That is a great question too. Thank you. Throughout Rebirth, there are going to be occasions with optional or mandatory clothing changes. Ooh, is aligned with the circumstances of the story. As far as can they wear them constantly, we were careful to consider some of the serious moments where it may be more appropriate, to not wear a costume to keep the scene impactful, being considered so that many players have the best experience. Okay, so it seems like that will not be a thing, at least on the first playthrough, but maybe they'll maybe either at launch, if not later in a future update or patch, they would allow it for maybe a New Game Plus run. Maybe that's something they could do for like, let people do that on New Game Plus run and to wear whatever costumes they want for the characters for the entire playthrough. You know, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully that's something that happens, but very cool there. I'm really excited about what they're doing summons though. It seems like they're really changing up how that affects and how side content's going to actually matter probably more than ever in a Final Fantasy game. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm all here for it, especially when it pertains to the summons, to make them a more impactful part of the story or gameplay, at least in a more fun way and unique way. So let's do it. Come on, Hamaguchi. Get the people what they want.